Hey guys, so we talked a little bit about compaction grouting as far as what it is and what it does, again with the cementitious grout or the structural polyurethane. But what I really wanted to get across as far as where it falls on that paradigm, if you want to know what I was talking about paradigm, check out the paradigm video, is that benefits and pitfalls for literally everything we talk about. So benefits and risks for compaction grouting in general. So the benefits of compaction grouting is that it's generally on the cheaper spectrum of foundation repairs specifically. By addressing the soil issue itself, and concrete's cheap, labor can be more expensive, polyurethane's kind of expensive, but labor's cheap. It goes back and forth, it's kind of a great switch off. Cementitious grouting and structural polyurethane are generally cost comparative. And as far as compaction grouting, it usually comes in somewhere between 20 to 50 or 60% of the cost of underpinning. Whenever we talk about what a client wants out of a project, there's generally a couple things that I'm looking for. The first is how important it is to the client that you can lift to level and permanently stabilize. So injecting concrete or a polymer, in theory, as long as an engineer signs off and all that fun stuff, is a permanent solution. There's a whole lot of engineering and a whole lot of a lot that goes into like the design of structural polyurethane, and if I get into a design section of this series of videos, then we can go into that, but it can be a permanent solution. However, if I inject into a soil mass, right, so I've got soil inside of here and I inject a polymer that affects all of this, right, and then I do another injection here and one maybe above, okay, and then let's say earthquake happens or plumbing leak happens or whatever. The big thing is that my soil mass of polymer here or concrete or whatever, this will stay still. But all of the soil here, or even within this area, all of the soil that is not completely bound together by the polymer or the concrete may continue to experience movement. So that's when a warranty item would be called out and further investigation could be a thing. But what this means is, as far as the spectrum of permanent stability, it's not as high up there because the soil is still in the equation, right? Some of the risks that you have is unbound soil can move, right? Soil movement. The next is the depth, okay? So when I say that it's like 20 to 60%, I know that's kind of a big, broad spectrum of things. But if the problem that you have, the problem that exists underneath the house is, let's say, hillside slope movement, it's something that we can solve. But if I've got to inject from 60 feet deep all the way up to surface in order to arrest that movement, it generally becomes cost prohibitive to go that deep. So what I like to say is that the range of effective polymer injections is between 0 feet and maybe 25 feet. Anything deeper than that, and you really need to start considering using another methodology in order to stabilize the structure. So 0 to 25 foot limitation. Now, asterisk. I am talking about stabilizing a structure, a house, something like that. We can arrest hillside creep, we can do liquefaction mitigation, we can do a whole slew of different applications that would require deep injection technology like that. If we do something like that, it is cost effective to inject that deep versus ripping out a public sidewalk that has regular pedestrian traffic and then digging down 60 feet in order to mitigate liquefiable soils conditions. There's also a whole video that we're going to do on liquefaction. It's a whole lot cooler. But you get the idea. As far as just a house, 0 to 25 foot limitation. Other than that, it kind of becomes cost prohibitive, and I might use a different system that would be much more effective at that point. The reason why I say that is The warranty that you're going to get, depending on what company you go with, ranges between 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, and 15 years, depending on which companies you go with. It's not that the polymer breaks down after that. It's not that concrete degrades after that. It's just they called the warranty somewhere, right? So when you have a piering system that offers a 25-year warranty and you have polymer, which is a 15-year warranty, you figure out what's important to you. Permanently stabilize, cost savings, so on and so forth. So another benefit, low disruption. You use piering systems or other methodologies, you're like tearing out concrete and plants and sidewalks and exposing footings, and you're down for 5 and 6 and 7 days, and for the same exact project, I could knock it out in a day or two using structural polyurethane. Drilling tiny holes, shooting, and then preserving all the plant life and all the other stuff that surrounds it. So very little disruption, there's a low construction profile, low carbon footprint on it. Next benefit, and I'm gonna do an asterisk here, permits. So, there's two things about polyurethane permitting. First of all, many jurisdictions don't require a permit. Why? A, it doesn't attach to, modify, change, alter, or take away from a structure, so it's not really a building permit. Next of all, you're not excavating, trenching, shoring, changing the grade, modifying the grade, or doing anything like that, which might be a grading permit. So it doesn't technically fall under a permitting item, right? So that's the first thing. Some cities do require it, some don't. Some cities require you to pull permits for paint, so whatever. Next off, oftentimes people will say polyurethane doesn't work. Polyurethane doesn't break down, or it breaks down over time, or they did a project and the house continued to settle, and long story short, they're just using a product that sucks. And there's no nicer way to say that. I will say this on a public video, I highly recommend that you utilize NCFI polymers or the Eurotech polymers. Those are the only two that I put my stamp of approval on. All the other ones lack the testing, the research, the development, and everything else. Polymore, Polylevel, Poly 1, Prime Resin. I just don't like the products. I've shot them before. I have taken a look at the engineering and the research and development before, so on and so forth. It's not great. Use a crappy polymer, get a crappy result. That's just the way it works. So as far as permitting goes, there's only one product that does have an LA research report, which is required throughout the LA County in order to pull building permits, and that is the Eurotech polymers. Very important thing to attach to and run onto. Engineers can sometimes try to piggyback off of it by calling out an approved alternative or a equal alternative or something like that. It just becomes difficult during the permitting process. So, something to keep an eye out on just as far as permitting. Unbound soil, limitation, warranty, benefits is cheaper, low disruption. Permitting is sometimes not required, and depending on what you go through, it can be easier in order to do, because we always do soils testing before. Anyway, yeah, that's about it as far as benefits and risks, guys. It is considered on the lower end of that paradigm because it's one of the cheapest options. You can shoot your shot, right? A lot of engineers are very comfortable with this idea. I'm super comfortable with it. I do it all the time. As far as super deep soils are concerned, so let's say down like 30 feet. This zone is an active zone or a failure zone or whatever, right? Sometimes they might go down 3 levels. So this home basically, if I've got 13,000 pounds on top, right? If I take twice the width at the depth, somewhere around 12 to 15 feet, it might be somewhere around 2,000 pounds, which is not very much, right? So sometimes when you do your injections, you can go down 2 levels. Like that. Go down 2 levels instead of all the way down 30 feet. So this would cover down to like that 10-foot depth or whatever. And it creates, as it was described to me by Dr. Randy Brown, creates like a lily pad effect. So this is the stabilized thing. So if you imagine like a frog jumping onto water, it just sinks in the water, right? But they jump onto a lily pad and it disperses the weight and supports the frog. It's the same thing that you're doing with the house. You're dispersing the weight among the ground in order to make it more stable. It's a design thing. Should have got into it later. I apologize. But the big thing was the benefits and the risks and why it sits lower on the paradigm. So, last thing, structural polyurethane and concrete grouting requires surface area. If I've got a big wide thing like this and I'm trying to push up here, there's a lot of area here that I can push up on that will facilitate lift, right? This is versus something very thin where I can miss and sometimes hit. What this means is if you've got a crawl space, a raised floor foundation system, or a stem wall foundation system, very, 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 very difficult to lift. Next up is the, even if you got a slab on grade or a post-tension slab or something like that, very, very, very difficult to lift. Easier on slab on grades than it is raised floor foundation systems because of the surface area. You've got the big slab and the footing and everything like that versus the 12-inch wide footing underneath your raised floor foundation system. You're trying to get the 5 tons of upward force to press in this little 12-inch section. It's very, very, very difficult. So when I talk to clients, if it's super important to them that they level the house out, then I may or may not recommend structural polyurethane or cementitious grouting, compaction grouting. If they want stabilization, yes. If they want, well, depending on soils, but yes. If they want to lift, then I will usually recommend a piering system which provides a better lifting opportunity on structures themselves. That's it. Benefits, risks, that's it. So click like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever all the other stuff is. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys later.